Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the Moon conjunct Mercury in Synastry. Now, first off, the unconscious side, which is the Moon, and communications, which is Mercury, the Mercury person, can be strongly integrated. The Moon person may often intuitively, instinctively know what the Mercury person is thinking. Now, let's say if this conjunction is in Gemini, it might be done very rapidly. As an example, Aries as well, because Aries is very quick, spontaneous, impatient energy. And this is now thinking. And what the person, the Moon person again, they instinctively know what the Mercury person could be thinking, and what they may communicate, understanding intuitively, what may be on his or her mind. The Mercury person may have a good understanding of the emotional nature of the Mercury person, um, and there may be, if the let's say the Moon. Let's say the Moon person um, has their Moon in Scorpio. That emotional nature could be very deep and complex, as an example. And the thing about this is the Mercury person may often, talk to the Moon person regarding how he or she feels, and because this could be a good aspect in terms of communicating, about articulating one's emotions and feelings toward one another. Um, the thing about this is the Mercury, the person, might be very inquisitive regarding the Moon person's, their home, their family life, and the thing about this is, keep in mind that conjunctions are neutral aspects. So, I mean, though this does seem very favorable having the Moon conjunct Mercury in Synastry, the thing about this too is, when you have conjunctions, they can be about friction. And the Mercury person, if they're overly inquisitive regarding the Moon person's, their private life, the home, the family-related matters. Say if the Moon, going back to the Moon being in Gemini as an example, Moon in Gemini, people don't, can often be hesitant regarding divulging things pertaining to their personal life. So you have to, be careful about about this as well. Just because something's conjunct doesn't mean it's all good, and you're destined to have something auspicious between the two of you, because there are conjunctions, again, are neutral, and they aspects, and they can have some bad elements to it. But anyway, now another thing about this synastry aspect is that the you look at this, the Moon person, may be very responsive, to what the Mercury person could be communicating, what is asked of the Moon person. The Moon person, may nurture the Mercury individuals, their matters connected with short journeys, local transportation. Moon person may be there, say, for rides, and for short trips, you know um, or if there's something wrong with the Mercury person's vehicle, the Moon person happens to be handy and dexterous, they may be able, person may help, willingly help the Mercury person with vehicle problems. The thing about this aspect too is that the Moon person, Moon is about our needs, so the Moon person may need the Mercury person for rides. Um, and the thing about this is, again, going back to the fact that conjunction aspects are neutral. If the Moon person is too needy, then that could get on the Mercury person's nerves to some degree. So now the Mercury person may be may have ideas for the moon person's public life. Keep in mind the moon is associated with the public. The Mercury person may lend that hand in some cases to help the moon person. Could be whether it's emotional situation they're dealing with, or it could be matters connected with the public to help him or her out. If there's any home related matters, the Mercury person may be there for that moon individual. Now, the thing about this is, as I've stated in earlier videos, my earlier natal placement videos, that it's important never to isolate any single one astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on that alone, because the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. And the same applies to synastry aspects. And the thing about this is, one synastry aspect certainly doesn't make or break a connection. And in this case, the moon conjunct Mercury is no exception to that. In most synastry charts, you're going to have a plethora of aspects between person A and person B. And the thing about it is, you could have some aspects that can offset other aspects that could offset a bad aspect, or some negative aspects that may offset a more auspicious aspect to some degree. Now, the moon conjunct Mercury, can be auspicious to a degree, having a connection, with the mind of one person and the feelings, of the other. But the thing about this is, you have to look at, other sinister aspects that could modify this in the chart. And the thing about this is, let's say you have some two people that have this aspect in synastry. They have the moon conjunct Mercury in synastry, but let's say that the moon is square or opposite Pluto in synastry with those same people. The Pluto person could be a connection of emotional manipulation. And the thing about this is, Pluto's destructive. It could be some destructive behavior on the Pluto person's part, might have a negative effect on the moon person, in terms of their emotional well-being, their safety and security. So you have to look at all the synastry aspects. It doesn't change completely. Like, the moon conjunct Mercury is still, the moon conjunct Mercury, what it means. But the thing about it is, if you have some adverse synastry aspects, things are not always, gonna be, maybe quite as smooth as the typical moon conjunct Mercury aspect. In synastry, that there's other things you have to still look at in the chart when you're delineating synastry, the other aspects, because it's not one aspect does not make connection. If you have majority of your synastry aspects, say they're in sextiles and trines, then it's got to make a positive, beneficial relationship for both people. If you have a synastry chart and the majority of the aspects in synastry are adverse, it could indicate there's a lot of challenges and obstacles and hardships, and maybe a lot of trials and tribulations in the connection between person A and person B. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard signing. Stay well.